There's quite a few people. Like,
See
who
your
else is going to
faces.
join?
It's half an hour. Faster. No, let's record at 1 so we can talk about other stuff.
Yeah, but we could, we'll have discussions, and then as soon as I'm not recording, something interesting will happen. You know what it's like.
That's true.
Sod's law.
Always.
Oh yeah.
That's what happens. That's what happens after the episodes as well. Like, sometimes I'll stop recording, and then we'll go on for like another half an hour and do something really insightful. It's like when you're not trying, that's when the best stuff comes out. So yeah.
This is so dumb.
Oh, have you actually turned it sideways?
Yeah, no, the whole iPad sideways, but whatever.
Nice shirt, by the way.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah,
nice.
this is. I think I've talked about this briefly on here before, but it's. We shot a short film at work, and it was space themed and had a bunch of NASA logos everywhere. But then it turned out that for the competition we were submitting for, one of the rules was that you couldn't have any NASA logos on the piece, and we didn't find this out until maybe like an hour before submission. And so
No way.
my coworkers went and he tracked this logo, NACA, which is the North American Cosmonautical Association, over every single NASA logo.
Oh
and
wow.
so we got these shirts made to represent that.
Oh my god.
I was actually gonna ask you, like, is it NASA? No, it's
It's
NACA.
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 It's not NASA. Yeah, it's a soft desk actually. Soft C. Yeah, NASA.
Soft NASA.
But
It's not McDonald's, it's McDowell's.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, today I was talking about, like, it's not cookies, it's chookies or something.
What?
Chookies.
Oh,
It's
no.
not cookies.
There's something quite funny in alternate universe about the idea of having like a cosmonaut version of NASA.
I'm all for that. Like alternate reality corporation names. Like
Yeah.
McDowell's.
Our buns are seedless.
I had a question for when we wanted to get serious, but like if there's anything else people want to talk about first, go for it.
I wanted to touch on so Sharon's got a
Sharon? Oh my
procedural-
god, yeah, that's perfect.
It's got procedural scratches video,
Yeah.
and Curtis, you just dropped the Amazing Human Generator, which, by the way, tangential, but
Mhm.
I'll get back to this. I've been listening to John Mayer again recently for some reason, I don't know why, and then I looked up the song New Light, and the third video result for that song is Curtis's The Amazing Human Generator video,
What?
which has nothing to do with John Mayer. And I was
Perfect.
like, why are you I've already seen this. Why are you showing me? But yeah, if you guys want to briefly touch on those, because they're both solid videos. And then maybe we can jump to the very serious question.
Yeah, I also said this to Charon just before as well. I noticed that
I
Grimes'
told them.
Grimes' brother is following Aaron, because I was checking through the followings, like because they're doing all the NFT stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting.
That's very
Collabs? Question mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
my
told
series-
Aaron, and it's like, how strange is this? It's like, yeah, it is strange. Like, the world is small.
it's cool though. Like it's kind of showing how Blender really has that reach, like going out.
Yeah.
Imagine Elon Musk's gonna sponsor, like, Tesla's gonna sponsor Blender.
I missed one giant thing also. Mike, you just dropped a course as well.
Yes,
With
we're
Aaron.
working with Aaron on the procedural course.
Woohoo.
It's gone incredibly well. That's one of the reasons Nice. why we're knackered.
Yeah, no, and it's been well received. Oh, bye.
Where did it go?
All right, hold on,
picture over
Michael, you back now?
Michael, it's here.
My internet is also still pants, so we're 10 minutes till we go live to launch the course, and my internet just goes completely dead, and it's still the Wi-Fi is not working on it, and equipment's arriving next Tuesday. But yeah, part of the reason why Aaron's probably knackered and I'm knackered is launching courses is not
Easy thing.
easy. There's so much to do that you don't even realize.
Are subtitles there for the videos?
Yeah, subtitles are on the way. They have to be manually done. You get all sorts
Oh,
of rubbish
no.
coming out. If you use automatic systems, one of the best ones I ever had was I was doing on my last Blender course. We were doing a chess set, and of course, what do you have as some of the main pieces in the chess set? All the pawn pieces.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously subtitles don't get that right. It's just like, come on, can you just put a profanity filter on and half the thing will disappear. But there was some really weird stuff that came out of the captions, especially if you start talking or you start using terminology that it's unaware.
Yeah.
So it starts going,
Yeah.
well, people would usually use this set of words that kind of sounds like that, and it comes out as complete garbage.
Yeah.
A
I'm
great
just-
example actually will be if you've got an iOS device and you can use Siri. The way, even if you speak perfect English to it, it will come out and say complete gobbledygook. Or use if I ever type in the chat and it ends up being complete garbage, I'm either incredibly tired, which does happen occasionally, or I've used Siri to send it. And even with Siri, when you press send, sometimes it goes, I'll adjust these words now, just as you press send. It's like, oh no. But yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's been a really great launch as well. It's been great to see people enjoying it already. Yeah, and there's going to be more to come real soon.
All right.
Amazing.
Might have to dive into that. Sounds cool.
Yeah.
I was excited to hear that this was part of a larger whole. And on the Siri being just actually, now that you're drinking water, just a quick side note. I've been with a couple of friends who are, like from Birmingham or other parts of England, and they're like typing into their voice notes or whatever, saying something like water, and then Siri's like, what? And then so they always have to do their American water. It's hilarious, but yeah, we'll get there one day.
So to answer your question on subtitles, which is one of the things that you were asking about there, the first pass, I do use a bit of AI software to do the first pass, so we're not just typing it all in. And I actually learned there are some English spellings for things that I did not realize. So to install a program on your computer, I've always known it as installation with 2 L's, but install in UK English just has 1 L on the end. I'm like, really? No, I refuse to believe that I'm using 2 L's.
I remember that one being mentioned. That one surprised me quite a bit because I didn't think that as well.
Color and color, right? With a U and without a U.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing when I'm writing documentation for the courses, because I'm typing it in UK English, but then I have to use like the color ramp. And so I have to switch in and out of when I'm using actual terminology of bits of Blender or any other program for that matter, and then switch back into UK English. So you can end up with the 2 words in the same sentence, which does probably confuse a few people who don't realize there is a difference.
I'm just waiting for this day where, just like we have RTX noise suppression in real time, like auto captions in real time. I think it's gonna be there sometime soon. I really wish.
Have you used Google Hangouts? That does do live captions.
But with Indian accent, I don't think it's doing a really good job.
That is true.
That's fair. Yeah, Zoom and YouTube do auto captioning really well. Like when it wants to work, it doesn't always work, but when it does, we've found like great success in having even multiple speakers, surprisingly, with varying internet qualities, audio qualities, like accents, pick them up. But it's something that's in some ways growing in prevalence now, which is a good thing in terms of accessibility. I saw that Gleb a couple of days ago, if not like a week ago, was asking, should we be subtitling our videos? And it was almost a unanimous yes, like absolutely yes. And I agree. I think it's really important. And a lot of people don't know this, if you're watching this on YouTube, presumably. You can actually, if there are captions in the video, you can open up the transcript and search within the transcript, which I've found really useful when I want to find specific pieces of information and I don't necessarily want to scrub through the video. And so even for folks who don't have hearing impairments or hearing disabilities or something of the like, it's a really useful tool.
Did you see this new feature in YouTube, like the cut CUT?
As in like editing?
No, it's like right in the videos. Like if I go to YouTube, just search what is video, you'll see this beside likes and shares, there's this thing called cut.
Oh, is it a bit like Twitch's clips where you can you clip a certain portion so you can save it outside of it? Maybe it's that.
Has anyone tried the shorts as well?
Yes, I have.
How is it? How does it work? I haven't had a look at it yet.
I don't know yet because I put one of these the last little thing I did with music that I wrote for it, and I threw it up there, and it did nothing for like a week and a half, like no views, absolutely nothing. And then all of a sudden, like I check and I picked up like 4 subscribers on it's a new channel. So I made a new
Right.
channel for shorts, and I got like over 500 views on it. So like it picked it up and it just started blasting it out to people. And I didn't do any I don't think I did any like advertising internally or externally for that channel at all. I don't even think I mentioned it. Maybe I mentioned it in a paragraph at the end of one of the descriptions of one of my videos. I don't even remember. But I really did nothing and it just picked up. So I have a feeling that they're pushing this now, but um I don't know if it's gonna translate. Like I did it on a separate channel because I didn't want to mess with my stats on my Kev Binge channel.
Mm.
But I've seen it on. There's another animator out there who's doing these like Among Us little shorts, vertical, and they look really cool and they're funny. But he also like has a bunch of tutorials on Photoshop and stuff on his channel, and his shorts are like in the million views range, but they're not
Right.
monetized, so he's not like getting any money from that. And I don't know how much of that is spilling over to his other videos because his tutorial videos are still like on the lower side, like in the couple of thousand views per tutorial video. So I'm not sold that the shorts are going to help your channel. It'll help it grow subscriber wise, I think, but it's I don't know what it does with the stats. So
Yeah.
does that answer your question? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah.
what I wanted to hear because I don't know how it integrates in, like how it will affect other types of content. I think when you make shorts, it
Yeah.
appears in like a separate tab on the Creator Studio as well. Like you got the videos and the live, and I think are shorts kept separate. I'm not too sure.
It does.
Also,
Shorts are on the phone. It's kept separate.
right?
On the or on the desktop. There was a breakout, but I think they just released it now for like the US audiences
Mm.
and creators. It was like they were beta testing it in Brazil forever.
Yeah, it's been
Right.
in beta for a little bit, and that's actually my 2 cents on that. Is that's why I started listening to John Mayer recently, because he's been
Yeah.
doing shorts on like how to play certain songs, and I was like, oh, what's this feature? And I clicked on it, and I was like, oh, look, there's John just hanging out in the shorts. And then one thing led to another, and now your body's a wonderland. 20.
Yeah. I think they're great for certain things. Like I told Markham, like he was asking on the channel about it, and I was like, yeah, you should probably be doing that because his stuff plays right into that. So I think now it's cool because you can go out and you can do it and you can get views and whatever, but I don't know if it actually translates, and it's not monetized yet. So time will tell if they monetize these things at all. And I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll put like a little the little ad on the bottom or something. I can't
Mm.
see them putting like a 30-second animation on something that's 15 seconds long.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how that's going to be monetized. If it is, nobody knows. But it's an interesting side note. I thought it was worth just putting up a separate channel. I only have like one video up there right now because I've been so busy freelancing. But and I haven't put my new powerful machine together yet. I'm still waiting on the motherboard to come in. But whatever.
I suppose
Same.
on
It's cool.
that front, with the shorts, if you actually got a bit of momentum going, and you were getting even just like maybe 1,000 views on each one, you could potentially, I'm going to say, slip in an advert for one of your products that you make, or something along those lines,
Oh, easily.
or an affiliate link to something else that you like the look of and want to endorse. So there's other ways of monetizing it outside of the typical ad structure.
Oh yeah,
that
absolutely.
have.
I mean, if you want to use it to build your lists or whatever affiliate marketing or anything, that's great. But yeah, if AdSense, no. And I think a lot of people are going for that AdSense money, and it's just not there.
Yeah, I don't even
yet.
look at my AdSense earnings. Like, I don't think I
I
have
do,
looked
it's
at them properly
depressing.
for ages. Yeah, the only statistics I look on the analytics are really the views. Sometimes, because I want to check how long it's been since I've put a video out. Because when you look at the analytics, it's got the little icon underneath the spikes, so it goes video,
Yeah.
so I can see like how long it's been, kind of on a line. So that's what I look at it for. The
been a month
money
for
is
me.
just like It's just nothing compared to other avenues.
I love the correlation you always get. You release a video, spike. Release a video, spike. And then sometimes I did a spate in February of releasing a video every day, and so obviously it was growing, and then you just get this really long tail going down. I'm like,
Yep.
should probably post something again soon.
Yeah.
Exponential curve. Sorry, logarithm.
Yeah,
Because it's this way.
It's like a heartbeat monitor.
It is a heartbeat monitor.
The channel's
It's like,
dying.
I'm pretty much flatlining right now. It's
Yeah.
been a month and I'm almost flatlining. I had a nice spike in revenue, and then now like down by a few $100s. I'm like,
Tried
All
2
right.
years.
yeah.
Oh, and speaking of affiliates, by the way, that human generated video, so it's been very encouraging to see that people are actually really interested in it and picking it up. And I think for me, it's been either the second or the third most successful affiliate video so far, which is really nice. So
That's great.
Like
clearly
it's
got
just a
lot of
week,
interest.
huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great
not
tool.
even a week.
It's really, if you haven't watched that video, or if you haven't heard about the tool, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's to put it in the context of the title of Curtis's video, it's an amazing human generation tool for Blender that allows you to create very realistic humans that work both in Eevee and in cycles in a matter of minutes. And they're like fully customizable. You can take them and put them anywhere. And they are, you can either get a personal license or you can get a commercial license where you can sort of deck them out in your own clothes, and you can even actually package those clothes and then sell them to other creators if you want to as part of the commercial license. So if you haven't checked it out, or if you're curious about things like MetaHuman or what's the other one, character creation tool, or any of those human generation tools, definitely check this one out. And Curtis's video is like very it's basically the one-stop shop for anything that you need to know about that specific tool, other than their documentation. So
yeah,
go give it a look.
There are a couple of
I wanna
points
watch that video.
as well. What you kind of mentioned there as well is that they allow you to make content packs, which you can then sell to other creators. So if you wanted to make like clothing packs or body hairstyles or whatever, you can do that, package it up for the add-on and sell that. They won't take a revenue cut from that, but they do ask for you to give them an affiliate link so they can publicize it and then help you that way. So if you're interested in maybe making some money and making content for the add-on, then that's something you can do. The one thing I missed out in the video was they've got so many things in the add-on, I forgot to talk about the makeup system. Like,
oh wow,
yeah, because I'd only really been demonstrating the male models, and for some reason it doesn't pop up on the male ones, so I might ask them why. But yeah, so I left out the video.
The makeup is fun. I realized I played a bunch with the makeup. Arturo learned so much as well. Like that's what mascara is, that's what eyeshadow is. This is what lip liner versus lip gloss is. So I think it's going to be a real education curve.
Yeah.
For the male / non-makeup wearing.
Yeah, I was thinking, why can't I put the makeup on the males? I like a bit of an eyeshadow going on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I never wore guy liner
Mm.
as even as a musician. Never wore guy liner. Like if I ever tried putting makeup on my face, I look like the Joker. So it's cool to understand that more because I know nothing about it. I watch my wife and I'm like, this is some dark art that I know nothing about. Like I feel like it's like magic and I'm just not privy to it. I'm a muggle. I'm like, hey guys.
So the comments of the video were quite predictable because it's the Blender community. There's a lot of people that want everything for free and a lot of people that really loved the effort that went into it. But this kind of goes back to like a few episodes ago when we were talking about the appropriate pricing for add-ons and tools and packs and all of that. Like if you wanted to hire someone to make one human character for you, as well topologized as that, with like no customizability, you'd be paying like hundreds of dollars or whatever.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And you're getting this for like $68 personal license, $128 commercial, which is crazy. It's ridiculous.
A steal.
Yeah,
it's just a steal.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when they were, because Curtis and I and some of the people here on BlenderNest were part of the beta testing for this, and when they were like, so what do you guys think we should price this?
yeah,
$68. I mean, that's for what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's a steal. That's a steal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I wonder how it. See, I want Markham on here because I want to see how it stacks up against the Real Illusion stuff.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I had bought the Real Illusion human something, I can't remember now. They're gonna come on this podcast and go, "You suck." But yeah, they have this whole thing where you can do something very similar to that, and it pipes into their whole pipeline and outside of their pipeline too.
Yeah. There
What do
was
you think about that business model? Like creating an add-on for Blender and then
iCloud?
making it essentially open source and allowing other people to sell it. Like that's very unique, I feel.
I think that's a very good idea.
I think it's genius, yeah.
Because I think
Yeah.
Machine with Decam
Why?
Machine is doing something similar. Because not only does it provide more attention, but I think it's kind of like you're building like an ecosystem for like your tool and your technique and whatever, and you're designing it in a way where it can grow by itself. So I mean, because delegating work to like I don't know, expand your ideas or whatever is very difficult as an independent creator. But if you design something in a way that other people actually want to jump on it and start making stuff for you, it's like you're growing that without doing anything. And I think trying to find ways to do that is traditionally quite tricky. So doing it in a way where people have financial incentives and a sense of ownership over what they make is probably a good thing to do. So
So
Do you think-
I've been having a go
Do
ahead.
you think it would benefit from some kind of like price cap? Because I'm thinking this is a bit of a like metaphorical or like analytical jump, but I'm thinking about like gentrification and rents and how like price capping is really important, because then otherwise you have people who are making the best add-on for it, selling it for a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think maybe what would be a good idea is if add-on creators that do employ that kind of system could give a guideline for what they imagine the pricing would be like. And because in the case of like these guys, Oliver and Alexander, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to remember the names. I'm so sorry. Like they said that they'd be interested in like sharing the content packs if they were giving an affiliate link. So you can kind of go with the implication that if you put a guideline system up and says, look, maybe do like a clothing pack for like this much. If you went too far up, then we probably wouldn't share it because it wouldn't be appropriate, you know? So I don't know, maybe something like that. But there is another comment I got as well, where someone was like, this will be worthless when MetaHuman comes out for like, Unreal and that. And I'm like, well, licensing, we got to keep that in mind. With this add-on, everything is self-contained in Blender. The rigs are kind of generated, they're all set up in Blender and everything. So whatever you can export from Blender in any way you like, then yeah. And they're perfectly game ready as well, if you want to use them that way. Some people, say that they're a bit too high poly, but I think it's actually a pretty good balance because it's designed in a way where if you add a subsurface, it's going to look fine, and if you decimate it, it should look all right, but you'd be missing out on the quads. But even the topology around joints, I was taking a look at it, it's been designed very purposefully, so they're supporting geometry, because that's one of the main things that people forget when doing body pieces. And it's something I haven't been bothered about, that when you actually bend joints, if you've just got one loop around it, it's going to look really weird. But if you've got some extra supports there, it's going to look much more natural. Yep. So it's been designed with all that in mind, which is good.
One of the great things about it as well, and tools like it and the Blender community at large, so I've been part of a bunch of different conversations, both on Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse, specific to Blender 3D creation. And sometimes these rooms are pretty big, like 100+ people. Sometimes they're very small. And something that I like to say when it's a smaller group is that we have the benefit of having a small group, because then the conversation can be a bit more intimate. And that's kind of what it felt like during the beta. There weren't too many people on the Discord server for the beta on. One thing that I really liked was when Curtis was like, let's break this. Because that's, that's kind of, as a software developer, that's what you want to hear, is that somebody's like, okay, I'm going to play test this and let you know when things fail or what is working, what's not. And so that was really great to see in that smaller, like contained community of the beta. But then immediately after launch, it just blew up. But there was a lot of people sort of commenting feature requests or reporting bugs and the like on this human generator tool, but the dedication and support by Oliver and Alexander didn't waver. If anything, they just remained just as attentive as they were to the smaller group as they were to the larger group. And I find that that's something that, for me at least, as a like user, has been really comforting, because you get to sort of take part in this experience and then take part in shaping and creating of this tool, and have like a direct line of feedback that you wouldn't really have with something like a Reallusion or just a bigger name brand, because obviously in order to get in contact with somebody, you'd have to jump through maybe so many hoops to just get that like one-to-one. Hey, I even, there was people that had questions about how do I do this? How do I make a stylized version of this texture? And obviously, like, Oliver and Alexander have to sleep, so they were asleep. And like 2 hours later, the person was like, "Never mind, I figured it out." And they made this whole like stylized thing, and immediately people start jumping on the server, like asking, "How did you do that?" And this person kind of like explains how it's done. So in some ways, it's really exciting to see. Even though we have things like MetaHuman, Reillusions, character generation tool, like other people inventing their own type of wheel, because it's not really reinventing the wheel, as I saw in some of the comments just online about this tool. It's just creating a a different wheel shop, so to speak.
Yeah,
it's always the danger with this sort of software where on the surface level it does look like just another whatever it happens to be. We've had it with scattering add-ons, whether it's Grassworld or Scatter, etc. But they all fill a certain niche depending on what you're trying to work on. And I don't think this is going to trample on the MetaHuman stuff that just come out. As you say, with the licensing, free for Unreal users, use it outside at your peril, sort of thing. And I don't know whether or not you can even use it outside. Yeah, I think on that licensing front, they've done a brilliant thing. It doesn't sound like they want their cake and eat it in terms of users coming up with stuff. And if you do come up with an original creation using a tool, being able to advertise that tool is a great way of just getting the marketing and the word out there for any particular thing, but also not taking ownership over it. I think that's good business practice.
To me, there's something so exciting about it. Just like, we're going to make this tool and let the community take it and run with it and like see where it goes. Just having, instead of saying, okay, now we're going to focus only on shirts, it's just like, you can make your own shirts and stuff and you can sell them. And if you want to do that, then we'll support you with it. I think that's genius, because then they'll find out through their users playtesting and using it, what's working, what's not working, what to change and what to fix. And I think that obviously like that aligns really well with the Blender community specifically, because for the most part, I think it's just a group of people that love tinkering.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I emphasized that I liked, was that because everything is contained within Blender, everything you generate is stored in the blend file. You can just break it in any way you like. Like if you don't like the shaders, they're right there in the shader editor. Just go and mix them up. It's all laid out there for you. The textures, they're right there. You can edit them. It's not like other stuff. Yeah, the nose. If you want your crooked nose, it goes a bit off to the left. You can do that with the editing. Whereas like in other softwares that are dedicated for it, you're very limited in that regard, because you can only edit what you're designing with their toolset that's been designed for you, really. And with this human generator, it's like, okay, well, here's our interface. This is what we've designed to let you edit it, but here's all the data, and it's right in there with Blender. If you want to take it and incorporate your own workflow to like modify this in any way you like, then you can do that. So I think maybe it might even be a good foundation for other studios, to start developing their own human systems if they really wanted. Right?
How fast is it? Like how responsive it is? Responsive.
It's very responsive. It's real time when you're modifying the sliders, which I was really happy about. Like, ooh, nice. muscular, skinny. Like all the faces, ears flapping back. Like, yeah, it's fun. It's like a character.
It feels like the beginning of like Skyrim or some of these games, where you get to sort of like set up your character the way you want it. And I think that's also part of what's exciting, because I know that some of the people on the server were asking, okay, this is really cool, but like when can we start making children or orcs or something like that? And they have all these considerations in mind they're open to these suggestions. So
that's cool.
If you're interested in tools like this, or like helping the development or creation of them, now's the time to jump on.
If you want to make a child scale down on the Z-axis, just there you go.
Yeah.
So, does anyone want any serious questions?
All right, let's get serious.
That might stump the discussion a bit. We've probably talked about a couple of these things on the podcast before. When do you know when to give up on a project?
Yeah. When you're not sleeping for 2 days and banging your head, I think. Yeah.
That's
what can I improve on? That's when you actually stop doing the project. Like, yeah, it's done. Like, it's not about like you. It's more like, what can I improve? What can I improve? And if you don't get ideas for 2 days, like that's what I have. Like that's what went when I was making the tile kit. Okay, like I had this plan to release it within a week when I started, but it went on for like 1.5 months. And there was so much that I could improve, like make it more modular, like add more materials and all the other extra juicy stuff. But it's like, yeah, chuck, done. But then once I stopped it, that's when I started getting more and more ideas.
Yeah.
So it'll be for like a second release or something.
I'll amend that then. When do you know when to give up on a project or to change direction? Then I'll make it that, because
okay.
I suppose that's kind of part of it. Because like with perfectionism, you gotta know when to, you know, put your foot down and actually stop.
I've had two experiences in recent times where I've had to really think about. So one of them was I realized I'd taken on too much. I wanted to make a video where when I've analyzed, this is a YouTube video where I've analyzed like several different graphics cards and based them all upon one another and giving some very sort of niche feedback on, if you've got all of these different or accessible to different graphics cards, say you've got children in the house or whatever, how do you balance them? Render time, how do you work out everything? If you were deploying it for an animation, how would you split up all of your frames so that the computers actually managed to finish and you wouldn't end up with one computer sat in the corner rendering a middle frame for like 8 hours for something ridiculous because you didn't load balance it correctly. And I was going through that. I had about 6 or 7 pages full of notes and data, and I realized at that point that I was probably self-serving more than anything else. I was burying myself in the data, and I'd lost the overarching goal and inspiration of how's this helping other people, because I've gotten tons from it now. I know how to set up all of that stuff, but how do I switch and change it back to helping others? And I realized that I was probably in a very fortunate position having access to more than one computer that I could click and just leave for 2 days rendering and just tell the kids, sorry, use your iPad. So I realized that was very self-serving, but it did take me probably 2 or 3 days worth of just burying my head in it to come back out and have that. I think some other project pulled me, and as I approached it again, I was like, what am I doing? And when I asked that question, what am I doing, I realized that I wasn't doing anything. That was kind of helpful. And my second sort of a bit of advice when it comes to this is, when you start a project, write down the goals that you want to achieve. Now, without getting too woolly about it, what we tend to do as perfectionists, if you do fall into that category, is your goalposts will move as you go for a particular project. You'll add something to it, whether it's a feature like you want to add volumetrics to a scene, and you're like, oh, I've not done that before. How do I do that? Suddenly you've increased your day, your workload by a day or two because you've got to go learn about volumetrics. And oh no, not volumetrics. I want to do a smoke simulation. I want to animate this fog, and the car's going to go through the fog, and we're going to get these vortices. And suddenly your project has gone from a little scene that should ideally maybe take a week or so to perfect and finish to a really open-ended project where there is no goal, and you're just chasing this these new goals that you've laid down. So as I'm working through a project now, whether it's a course section or whether it's a actual scene that I'm making, I write down what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then I can tick those off. And if I want to go forward and add further goals, I can do that. But then I can look back at my project and go, well, actually, I did complete that project, and then I added some polish. And I know, because I've given it a big tick, as if you were working for a client. If you were working for a client and that client was yourself, that's a good way of managing things. What do you want? What's your goals? Okay, brilliant. Oh, I've polished it a little. Do you like that? Oh yeah, brilliant. But if you were working for a client, you wouldn't go and do tons of work for free. Well, you might do if you're a beginner, because you want to impress. But ultimately, set yourself goals and at the beginning, and if you achieve them, brilliant. And if you in the answer of the question to diverging from it, you can then see how you're diverging. And often other projects have come from that divergence. I'm like, this is really cool. I want to try this new track, but I'm going to do it on a different project so I don't get bored or tired of the project. So it's a different scene, new vision, new excitement, and obviously the energy that comes with something new and shiny.
I would suggest that people not only write down goals, but also sort of keep track as the project is unfolding. Because, often I find myself, I do exactly what you just described, Michael. Like, I have new visions. Like, my brain is constantly refreshing. And I think I can try this, and I can do that, and I can do this. Like, I've been working on this floaty hovercraft thing for almost a month, and I was trying to get a video out last month, and it just all spiraled out of control. And along the way, I found myself thinking that there are small obstacles that I was overcoming that could easily be their own video in themselves. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't able to quickly turn them into something shareable because I wasn't like being meticulous about documenting the problem, the things that I tried to address the problem, and then what solution actually worked in a clear enough way to remember that myself, and this is not only helpful for like content creation, but it's also really helpful for learning too, like being able to remember exactly what you tried and exactly what worked, even for small little things. Like sometimes I just like, I solved it, great, next thing, right? I'm trying to chase that vision. But so like being organized at the front, I agree, is super important.
Yeah, organization and creativity aren't always good bedfellows, unfortunately.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, when inspiration strikes, I mean that can really just take me away. So when you asked the question the other day about noise and how you can denoise effectively and whether or not denoising works when you've got to take into account animations and all that lot, after a while I was like, what am I doing? I'm like down the rabbit hole with this, and I was doing loads of different experimentations. I was like, right, I'm coming back out. I'm surfacing at this point. I've got to call it.
Yeah,
but it was so much fun. That's the thing. If you're taking stuff apart and analyzing it, and you find that sort of thing fun, then go with it. Roll.
What's your video? The one, the cycles one, because that's what I was using, and it was actually really helpful because it helped me figure out like which parameters and settings to play with myself. But really the conclusion of the video was like, you have to play with it yourself and figure out what works for your hardware, your situation, like you were just explaining. So
yeah, I've seen so many people with like cycles. They'll say, oh, put the CPU at 8 tiles, 8x8 tiles, and put your GPU at 512x512. But if you've got I don't know, going back into the days of like the 10 series, I've not used AMD cards for a while, but like the 10 series GTX 1060, 1070, 1080, if you whacked some of the lower level ones up at this huge tile size, it would take a lot longer. Mm-hmm. And then you'll find that if you're doing volumetrics, it takes a lot longer. Recently, I discovered there is a setting. I can't remember what it's called. I'm going to open up Blender while I talk about something else. So when using the denoising, if you're using optics denoising, it would just do it with the GPU. But if you're using open image denoise, that's on the CPU. So if you go and set your tile sizes really huge, so you're rendering really quickly, you're going to be waiting ages for the actual CPU to go through and denoise. So there's a balance there where you're not rendering out with the GPU as fast as you can, or denoising as quickly as you can, but together it actually comes out much, much better. Now there was a thing in your render settings under cycles when you're playing around adaptive sampling. That's what it is, where you can change a threshold. And the idea behind that being that if you've got a darker area of your scene, because darker areas tend to be more noisy because they don't get enough light, so you don't get the samples in there. And you can change it. And the idea behind there is the darker the area is, the more samples it will get. Problem being, you can end up with some really nasty banding appearing where it's added more samples. And
Yeah.
it was horrible, even when denoised, because it's a very sharp change. The denoising goes, oh, that I'm not going to smudge it completely. I'm going to make that line there. And so I ended up with, I was just playing with the default cube on a plane rotating around. So you've got some really dark shadows area in the area with one point lamp. But you ended up with this really horrible, what looks more like an artifact rather than helping you out. So there was loads of things I was learning whilst playing around with that. Videos coming soon. Lots of videos coming soon.
I think something that I'm constantly seeking in what I'm working in is the teachable moment, or what I can absorb from what I'm working on. If I'm not necessarily meeting those end goals, and if I find that I'm not having fun with what I'm doing, or like, I think the example of volumetrics is perfect, because I went on one of those rabbit holes a couple of months back where I wanted to set up a specific scene and have it look a certain way. And then I'm like, oh, it doesn't really look like that. So I could either use cards like Ian Hubert, or I could watch Curtis's video on volumetrics, or I could do this and that. And then I'm like, wait, but I just wanted to just set up and render this scene, And so it's like, do I really want to put another 3 days of research into this and like slow myself down and learn about this? Or could I finish this current project for the sake of achieving the vision, like you said, Ellie, that I set out to do, and then see how I can fit this bit of learning into another project that maybe ties in a little bit closer to either, using cards in a scene to sort of trick a smoke simulation, or using volumetrics in a scene to achieve some level of depth that better serves that purpose in that scene, as opposed to trying to like weasel it in because I found a new shiny thing to latch onto for a little bit, just to drag on this project, just to give that perfectionist in me the piece of candy to be like, yes, this is good, next piece of candy. So it's a rough one, but I think something that I always seek out is am I learning and am I having fun? And if the answer to both of those is yes, then it becomes really difficult to pull away from a project. But if I'm constantly running into a roadblock, then it probably has something to do not so much with my intent to finish the project, but more so with my organization in terms of the way that I've set myself up to accomplish it. And that almost always ends up being that I'm biting off more than I can chew for the one given project. And then at that point, sometimes it's an hour in, sometimes it's 5 days in. I realize it's just not worth it. And it will prevent me from actually just picking up on the things that I actually need to pick up on. And then I just end up fully discouraged. So I try to like curb it at the point where I'm like, this is not fun. I feel like I'm not technically there yet. This is not what this project was about. So maybe let's put a pin on that and table it for later, and we can definitely learn about volumetrics and all these things later down the line. But it doesn't serve the purpose of this specific project. So why don't we just finish this one and move forward?
For me, it's when the client says it's final. When I can actually sit and start doing my own stuff. If I do that, which I'd like to. I mean, I want to do my own stuff again. Then maybe, but it's always been like the last 2.5, 3, 4 years. It's just been either I do something for work, which is for a client, or I do something freelance for a client, or I do something for a YouTube video. And I think the closest is the YouTube video, where it's just, if I start going down a hole and I'm like, all right, this is going to take forever. Let me do this other idea that I had. Then, I have to cut it off at a certain time because time is so limited. So I wish I could have a better answer for that to add to this conversation, because I'm not doing my own art projects right now. And it would be cool if I were, but I'm not. So I don't know. But in the past, I would just say like a mix of everything everybody here just said. Like, if you have to learn something for the project you're working on, awesome. Then learn it. Give yourself some time if you have it, and learn like volumetrics. Like, learn all you can about volumetrics and then use it. But once that feature or that scope creep starts coming into your project, you have to cut it off at some point and be like, all right, is this going to work for this? Do I need this for this? No? Okay, move on. It goes the same with like buying software or buying courses too. It's like you could like easily just spend your money on these courses or spend your money on software and stuff that you're never going to use. And then you're like, oh, great. What did I just do that for? Instead of having a plan from the beginning and go, all right, I'm just going to use what I need. I'm gonna get what I need for this, and that's gonna be it. Or I'm gonna learn what I need for this, and that's gonna be it. And then I'll tackle something else I'm interested in. So it's just it's time management, really.
Kev, you mentioned like not having the time to do your own personal projects, or / feeling like the projects that you are doing are like immediately becoming sort of commodified. And I think in like the creator community, this is something that lots of folks can easily fall into, like the commodification of things that they love.
Yeah.
And like I think that's an important topic of discussion, because you don't want to lose the things you love to capitalism. Like how do y'all deal with that?
I rectify it one way. And the day job I don't have much control over. It pays the bills, and it's better than staring at an Excel spreadsheet all day long, and or digging ditches or working fast food, right? So I do like, I love that I can, I use Houdini. I'm a professional 3D generalist, right? For a living, for my pays for like my entire life, right? That's like the dream job. So you have to kind of I have to keep it in perspective that, it's okay. It's not entertainment. I'm working in the industrial space, but it's still like dream job. I go to work and I actually love what I do. Whether or not I love what I do for the specific company I work for, or whether I think what they're doing is good for the world, I don't go down that rabbit hole. The cool thing is that when I freelance, because I have the day job, I can pick and choose the projects that I feel are a benefit to the world. And I can say that one, I'm working in the biomedical and scientific visualization space right now, freelance, and it's the stuff that I'm working on is going to change humanity, no doubt. This stuff is a plus for all of us. So that's really cool. Like that's like world changing, ending human suffering type work. So that's great. It makes me feel awesome, and I love doing it. And so those projects are great. So I can rectify that, and I'm getting paid to do it. I don't have time to do my own work, but I'm also using my skill set to benefit all of mankind. That's awesome, right? So that in itself right there is great. The other stuff that I'm doing too, I'm working in a social space, helping a company launch a new social media platform, and these guys are like really cool and they get it. That could also really help humanity along. So that's like the cool stuff that I get to choose. I get to pick and choose, right? So I don't mind putting my own personal stuff on hold in the altruistic sense that there's a greater good for what I'm doing. If I had to just take on like crappy jobs for crappy companies with crappy people just for money, that's when the capitalism thing comes on, and it is a big deal, because it's like, why, it sucks because you have to pay your bills, right? So you have to work. So at that point, it's like, do I stop doing 3D for a living because I hate the company I'm working for and I hate this, whatever, and I just leave it as a hobby on the side and go flip burgers for a living, which is fine, but
that's pretty much cutting off your nose to spite your face at that point.
It is. But you're right though. It's like, at what point does art become commoditized, where we're all just a cog in the wheel serving capitalism and helping billionaires make more billions while the rest of us just fall by the wayside? In unbridled capitalistic terms.
That is,
and that's the cool thing about the NFTs. Love them or hate them, right now they give artists a chance, whether it's good or bad, a chance to actually monetize their own work and work on stuff they love doing for once, because the only times that artists can make money is if somebody pays them, commissions them to do something, which is the freelance angle, or you're lucky enough to get into galleries, or you can create your own IP and create films and create and sell it, right? So it's really difficult as an artist to make money outside of the freelance scope.
So artists have been able to monetize themselves and their work historically. But what I think is exciting about NFTs is that it really is democratizing the ability to do that in a way that allows artists to really set an honest measure of how they either see their worth in terms of like a reserve prize for some auctions. That, if that's met, great. If it's not, then it's not. But at the same time, it allows investors and collectors to actually set that price for the artist in a way that doesn't necessarily mean that the auction house or the gallery is going to skim some off of the top of that. And so I would steer the conversation more towards that idea of allowing artists to really get this sort of like unhindered measure of this. I don't want to say their worth, and I'm kind of struggling with this because it doesn't mean that because you get $5,000 or whatever for a piece of art, then that's what you're worth or what that piece of art is worth. But it allows people to pay in a way that doesn't, that is just untraditional. But artists have been able to like monetize their work and have been able to like put their work out. But at the same time, it's giving like some people a platform for their voice, right? It's the same when we talk about like social causes and say that, like people just have to find their voice, or like this specific group doesn't have a voice. I'm wary of conversations like that because people do have a voice and people are able to voice their voice. It's just about being heard and being given the room to speak that voice. And so in the same vein, like artists have been able to monetize. The savvy isn't always there in terms of marketing and like sharing your work and being just open about it, right? And so in some ways, like NFTs has kind of removed that for some artists. But like if the technical divide is there between an artist who is doing 3D art in the context of NFTs and wants to mint something, but they don't really know how to do that, then they just won't monetize their art. But that doesn't mean that the opportunity isn't there, right? And so it's a little bit different. And I think that that's part of the reason for the heated debate right now, because a lot of people are saying, like, this is the first time that artists get to monetize their work. And that's not true. But this is the first time that artists get to monetize their work in this way defined as a way that allows people to actually like pay exorbitant sums of money to say like, hey, I support you, or I think this is worth like this much. And then the artist gets to pocket that without necessarily having a gallery go, well, we found you or we sourced you and we're going to take this much as a result.
We've definitely entered a realm of discovery for artists, not just people who create 3D art or computer generated arts, but discoverability is something that's increased so much over just the last decade. Music artists, even film developers, YouTube has been absolutely wonderful for that, and several other platforms that have come and gone or are not in my horizon at the moment. But it's enabled a reach that we've never really had before as a civilization. And it's absolutely wonderful and terrifying in both a good and a bad way that you're able to reach so many people for good, for emotive, for indifferent, for whatever reason your art stands for. And I think that's really what's happened over the last decade. And I think that's where, whether or not it's NFTs or it was some other mechanism that grew from that, that's ultimately where we're going, where everybody is connected to everybody without this need of, as you put it there, a gallery finding you or in the case of a musician, a publisher finding you, or even a game studio. You know, that's another form of art, creating games. So it's amazing how we're able to reach out, but there's also this battle going on with the old and the new, and I think that's being thrown in the mix there a lot. And I don't quite get the way it's moving. I can see the overarching picture, but the nuts and bolts of it still are quite difficult for me to get my head around.
Because it is interesting, like trying to resolve the whole commercial aspect and the hobby aspect and turning things into a job and making money out of stuff. And from my perspective, it's always been weird, especially doing like this line of work for the last few years. Because technically, in my mind, I don't have a purpose or like a job in quotes or anything. And it's like, okay, well, can an artist make a job out of doing nothing in quotes? And the answer is yes, in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of done things in a horizontal way rather than a vertical way. That's how I describe it. Vertical would be me focusing in on one thing. Say if it's just YouTube or just products or just art. And there are lots of paragons in the community that do each of these things very well. And succeeding to various degrees, however you want to measure succeeding. But for me, I do things very horizontally, which is how many things can we do and link together, even if they're not all necessarily amplified to like a recognizably successful degree. And the reason why I do things horizontally is because for me, it's more comforting from an emotional standpoint, because it means I can jump around different things very easily and very quickly. Yeah. And if one thing fails, it doesn't matter because everything else holds it up. So I feel like this is maybe something that other people looking to do similar things, or maybe trying to make a job out of themselves rather than any actual conventional or purposeful line of work, could look into or could try doing. Because there's really no limit to the amount of things that you can do if you feel like you're comfortable with, being able to maintain that.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is the goal. It is the goal of most people, I think. I do. Deep down inside, it's you're making it happen for yourself, which is amazing. And I think that's just awesome. Like, I would love to. And I'm so far along in one direction right now and in life that making that change is really it's like an order of magnitude more difficult right now for me, but it would be so awesome to just be able to do that.
Yeah,
I agree.
I will say that there has been a bit of like not a crisis moment, but I don't know how to describe it. Very few people reach this point, I think, where they haven't been lucky enough to be able to look at life and go, right, I don't need to worry about anything at the moment. Got no one to work for, no big responsibilities, no big bills, literally nothing to worry about other than like health. So what do you do now? Like, because a lot of what you do in life, or a lot of your plans, are based around removing worries, like removing the financial worries and whatever, and say, okay, well, I can go out and walk around the world and just like look around at people getting about their day, getting their food, maybe meeting their friends, to like chill out or whatever in between like their work weeks. I'm just like, well, here I am, got like nothing to do. And it's kind of changed my perspective on the world a bit, because I think I said to Ben the other day, everything has now become both very interesting and extremely boring. You're like, well, you can go and explore the world and it's all there, but like, why would you? Like, do you have a reason to do it? No, not really. So I've been trying to like resolve and finding new purposes or new challenges to try and like, keep myself going. Because now that I've removed like all the major worries about life, it's like, okay, well, now we need something new to worry about.
It's existential. Read Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think in some ways a lot of people have been confronted with that, and to some capacity, last year and this year. Just if you're either staying at home for the most part, or working in a position that affords you the ability to not necessarily have to have all these existential worries, what do you do with your time? And the people that have found a way to do that effectively just defined as question mark, then what does that mean for the rest of your life, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're able to sort of save up and not have these worries, or if you're in a position where you can just have like an influx of income and not, again, have to have these worries, then in my worldview, then there's some onus on you to do something for others in that sense, because you aren't necessarily held back by the concerns of what do I do for myself. And in some ways, like you like, well, not in some ways, in a lot of ways, you're doing that. But a lot of people, you know, this the conversation of like, what did you do during the pandemic? You know, what did you do while we were all stuck at home is going to be something that's going to be asked after, you know, in a healthier time once we return to that. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it won't be until that moment that they actually think about that and realize, shit, I could have done something like fully for myself or for other people during that whole break, that whole vacation I just got. And, you know, that's a learning moment. But to quickly wrap up the NFT sort of rant that I went on briefly, I think, Michael, you put it like perfectly. It's about discoverability. I think it's one of the key components of what's changed, because right now you don't have to have a platform of, and I've like, this is true if you go on Twitter, if you go on like Clubhouse, if you go on these platforms where people are just cropping up and putting out a piece of work, you don't have to have a platform of 6 million followers for somebody to say, wow, I really like your art and I'm going to support you financially as a result, because I want to, like, for my own whatever reason, I want to have that in my digital wallet. Like, I want to, one, either support you, or two, I want this piece for me. And that's hugely what's changed. So not to say like that, Kev, like you were wrong in what you were saying, or that I fully like disagree with what you were saying, but I think that discoverability, I think, is like the huge thing that has been different, and we've sort of entered this new era of discoverability, where it doesn't matter what your platform is. It just matters that, one, you have art out there or a piece of work out there, and that, two, somebody who likes it and it resonates with has found it. And so that, like, that perfect connection there is what has been responsible for a lot of people being able to monetize that, and through that be able to like uphold themselves and uphold their families and uphold their practice. And so that, I think, is what's been the difference, the deferring moment with like NFTs now and crypto art as something that's sort of in the renown.